The purpose of all counter is to note words and sound that are used as a crutch or filler by anyone who speaks. So during the meeting, I will listen for filler words such as um, and stuff like and like, just other words that kind of fill up the time. At the end of the meeting, I'll report the number of times that each speaker used the expressions. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's great. Thank you. And you happen to be the timer as well.
Yeah, no problem. Morning, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. As timer, I will time the speeches, table topics, and evaluations. Speeches should be 5 to 7 minutes in length, table topics 1 to 2, and individual evaluations should be 2 to 3 minutes. And, as I showed you guys all, I downloaded the timer cards on my computer, so you'll see the timer and then the color warnings as you speak. So I'll report my findings at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's great. Thank you. And the word master is Gautam.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our honorable guest today. So I'm the word master. I'm responsible for counting your word usage, and the word of the day is I'll be posting it in a channel. I'm just still trying to find the one that has matched with the theme. It's life hacks today. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll wait for your word. Look for it in the chat. In the meantime, I'm the grammarian, so I'm supposed to be listening to everyone's English and try to identify, I'm not very good at this, try to identify something that you could improve on and something that I might have heard that would be a very good use of the English language. And I'll try to report that at the end of the meeting. Our ballot counter is Georgie.
Thank you very much, Wai-Ming. I will send out a link in our chat, and I would ask each of you to click on the link and respond with your name and your selection for best or most improved table topics, evaluator, and speaker. I will report at the end of the meeting by sending the information directly to our acting president. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And our video master is Harun.
Well, thank you, Wai-Ming. As video master, my job is to record the proceedings of the meeting, and I will, once the meeting is over, I'll be uploading it to a YouTube channel. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let me know so that I can pause the recording while you're speaking. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's great. Thank you, Harun. In my speech, I'm going to ask it to be not recorded today. So we'll come to that when it comes to that. So Hannah is here. So Hannah, you would be the general evaluator. Yes? Hannah? Oh, she's trying to connect on audio. So Gautam, do you have the word?
So the word of the day today is prolific. Adjective is producing, young, high, fruitful. You can say that Mr. Wai-Ming is prolific furiously.
Well, I don't know about prolific, just in general. I'm prolific maybe in trying to give a speech every week, but let's, Hannah, could you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
That's great. Would you be general evaluated today?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you, Gautam, for the word. The word today is prolific. And we want to be prolific in terms of how we come and give speeches, because the more we practice, the better we could be in terms of public speaking. So I certainly encourage everyone to be prolific in signing up for speeches and giving speeches as often as the slots are available. So we're going to move forward with the two prepared speeches today. And I believe both of them are going to be 5 to 7 minutes.
And who are our evaluators?
The evaluator for Georgie is Harun, and the evaluator for myself is Gautam.
Got it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Our first speaker today has been a longtime member, and she's going to be speaking from the High Performance Leadership Project. Is going to be the online social part 2 speech. Let's welcome Georgie.
Okay. 1 second. Good morning. Today I'm continuing my talk concerning the High Performance Leadership Project that I'm working on. It is the last remaining project that I need to do in order to complete my DTM. I've been quite prolific with getting everything else done, but this one last remaining thing still is left for me to do on the old style of how Toastmasters would complete the different steps in becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. The concept behind it is that you are supposed to pick a project to work on that is somehow showing your leadership skills. In this case, I decided to look into something that might be beneficial to the club in general. I thought, given that we're still locked down and we might be for at least another few more weeks, maybe some sort of online social event to help us kind of get together and have fun compared to what we used to do in the past when we did regular online, regular social events. I suggested that we could look into different things like doing a watch party for movies and TV shows, playing games online, either real world type role-playing board games, or even all the way up to virtual reality Oculus style games, and perhaps even something like an online class or a tour or something like that. In order to get a better feel for what people might be interested in doing, I sent out a form a few weeks ago, a link to a Google form to get feedback from members to see what they might want to do. You may have seen this link in your email or on one of the multiple channels we have on WhatsApp. The idea was just get an idea of the kind of things people might be interested in doing versus the kind of things they have done and what kind of software and tools they might have for some sort of online social event. I did get feedback from people, about 6 responses or so. So there is some interest in doing these types of things. What interested me most of all, what I found most surprising, was that there haven't been as many what might consider maybe lighthearted type of online social events as I might have thought there might be. For example, I would have thought that most people have some sort of social activity online. It seems like people were doing things like going to meetups other than Toastmaster meetups quite a bit. They were also doing online classes, and they were also playing some games online. But that was kind of it. I thought that people might be doing a few additional things, but it turns out we're all kind of newbies in this area, I guess. And I asked people what sort of events might be of interest to them. I got a wide variety of things. The most popular were classes and movie, TV watch parties, and discussions, interviews, and podcasts. Looking through the information we have here, I thought that classes can be really hard to structure, I think, in order so that they're interesting to everybody. Likewise, to do something like a podcast and interview discussion, that once again might be a little tricky to get started. I thought to try to make things as easy as possible. Might want to start off with something like a movie or TV watch party, something that people have a lot of familiarity with. We already know how to watch TV and movies, so now just moving it to online. The other big thing was, what services and software do people already have? it turns out that the majority of people are already logged into, already have subscriptions to Netflix. 3 people have that. The next most popular was Disney Plus. We then had Amazon and Peacock as well. Amazon and Hulu, sorry, I should say, for 1 person each on those. Given that feedback, that we don't really have one central streaming service, I was looking into the different streaming services available. Now, a lot of them like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, they already have built-in services for their members to do watch parties on their platform. The thing is, from what I've been able to read online, a lot of these services they have are relatively simplistic. You can indeed watch the content across the different screens in everybody's different home. The issue is more the social aspect. You can text, sort of text chat with one another during the content as it's being displayed, but you can't, for example, do what we're doing right now, which is looking at one another and listening to one another. So in other words, a big aspect of what I consider the social interaction, it kind of goes away on these regular platforms. As a result, I found this one platform called Scener. This is a image you can get from looking at its actual website. Scener is a Chrome extension that you just add on into your Google Chrome browser. It's completely free. Now the trick is, while you are able to set Scener up as like kind of like a Zoom call, kind of like what we're doing right now, the issue is that it is able to display whatever shared content you're looking at that they support in really high quality. So someone has, one of the suggestions I got back was they pointed out that they had attended a watch party on Zoom, but the quality of the video was really quite poor on Zoom. On Scener, it's very high quality. So hence the reason to use Scener, and also the fact that Scener, while it does have some issues with using it, meaning that in order to make this work, everyone's going to need to download Google Chrome, which is free, obviously. They're going to need to download Scener, which is free. They then need to create a login into Screener, so their own private account. We can't share the account. We all have to have our own. Then we have to have a streaming service that we are all using in common, Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever. And we have to be logged into that streaming service. And several of these platforms have their own costs associated with their streaming services. Now, like I said, Screener supports lots of these different platforms, which I think is a really good way to start, including free ones like YouTube and Vimeo, which we would pay by watching videos. So once again, it gives us a lot more flexibility. I'm going to send out a poll to get feedback from you guys about what sort of TV shows and content you might want to look at and possible days and times for this. So I'm also going to work with the volunteers and officers, see if we want to do things like snacks or other activities associated with this party. We'll just see how this works out. But meanwhile, you can expect there to be a URL going through on WhatsApp and through your email looking to get feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now let's give ourselves a minute to provide written feedback specifically to Georgie. So our next speaker is Wai-Ming Mark. Is going to be giving a speech on a particular topic. It's going to be books and thinking. And I would like to ask, since I'm the speaker, to stop the recording. There's actually not much sensitivity, but there's still a small sensitivity, so I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm just stopping it right now, Wai-Ming.
That's good, thank you. We should see the face of the cat. I want to see the face of the cat. So we're going to move forward with the evaluation section. Let's welcome our general evaluator, Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I will be calling upon the evaluators for this morning's speakers. So we had Georgie that will be evaluated by Haroon, and we have Wai-Ming that will be evaluated by Gautam. So please welcome first evaluator of this morning, Haroon. Oh, I think we'll give Haroon a second.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. And thank you, Georgie, for taking the initiative for organizing this social event. First of all, the way I would go around evaluating a project report like your goal was, I would look at a lot of how you've structured your speech. Your ability to portray your ideas is phenomenal. We've gone through a lot of your previous speeches as well, and the way you've explained your topic, especially about financial literacy, really speak to about your ability to explain your concepts. So I'm not going to focus so much so on the on your presentation, but a little bit more on the content. Now, the way I would go around evaluating your speech is by looking at what is your vision, what are your steps that you're going to accomplish to look at your vision, and finally, what is the news about what you've actually seen, the results of what you've accomplished, and what your final contributions are going to be. Now, you started off with establishing your vision. That what are your goals? You wanted to achieve your DTM. You wanted to finish off your advanced leadership track and go to DTM and achieve your distinguished Toastmaster. Here's the thing about establishing your vision. You establish it straight off and laid your cards out on the table. But I would suggest to sort of emphasize on your actual goals, right? Organizing your social event. So, and sort of move the DTM to the conclusion. I think by laying out the cards, you've totally established control of your audience. Your audience knows where you're going. But what I would suggest to it is move that part about your becoming a distinguished Toastmaster to the last, to the end of the conclusion. You then went on to your steps, and I thought that was really well done and executed because you actually laid out the steps that you're going to do your survey, do your research. You're going to select your activity based on your findings or your research, organize that activity, and participate in that activity activity, and you establish definite timelines on that. And I thought that was really well done. The audience was really invested into what you want to, on what you accomplish, and you laying out your steps on how to do it. And then finally, what I would suggest is that you presented your findings while you were doing your steps, but that you were doing your steps. I would actually move that slightly later in your speech. And the reason is that it would actually give the audience of saying, oh my God, you've done so much already. And then finally give the news that, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Your contributions were really great. You put in that personal touch about how you're going to, what your findings were. You expressed some surprise as to what people's preferences are. And then finally, you went on to your conclusion. I thought that maybe you could actually say that, hey, these are my contributions so far as to what I'm going to accomplish. So my suggestion to you would be that, just a little slightly reorganization of your speech, and I think this speech would have really well-rounded and given your advanced your goals in becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Haroon, for the evaluation of Georgie's speech on high performance, her high performance leadership project. And next up, we have Gautam, who will be evaluating Wyming's speech on books and thinking this morning. So please welcome Gautam.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you, Wyming, for the speech on books and thinking. You started with a question that captures audience attention and you gauge very well about their audience interest and how sensitive they are, and really appreciate your preventive measures. And you provided stats in the presentation that's really helpful, that backs up your numbers and evidences that you are sharing, or maybe your experiences. And you used a gesture very well. Of course, the full frame captured the gestures, and your vocal clarity was really good. However, there were some few repeatable words. Like if you play your video after this recorded, so you can see that few repeatable words, and most of the time I felt like you are trying to emphasize your word. So that could be avoided with the help of vocal clarity. And also in between sentences or within the sentences, the pace was changing significantly. I felt that you want to emphasize your word or emphasize your context. And noted few R's, but not very evident, but there are some few R's and ums. And the timing went beyond the timing, like more than 7 minutes, I guess. But I think that could be avoided with the help of reversing the speech with the timing. And you had very really helpful visual aids and supplements to keep the audience attention. That is really very well planned. And also you recommended your perspective of books, and also you have shared the books that you want others to read, or you like others to read. That's also really very well done. And you ended up with your recommendation. So throughout the speech, the audience was like, yeah, I was fully engaged in your speech, and I was curious what you're going to share next. So your questions and the book recommendation, samples, status, they are all very well packed, and it's really done very well. And I would like to give you a challenge on avoiding those repeatable words by emphasizing your speech. Maybe you can change the words, you can change your vocal variety rather than avoid using the repeatable words. Other than that, overall your speech was very well done, and the presentation, I should really appreciate it. It was very clean, no bullet points, started with a few lines, straight to the point, and you build on that slide. So which means audience, we don't have to look at the slides and read it, and rather than we can hear the speaker words. Thank you, Wei-Ming. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Adam, for your evaluation of Wei-Ming's speech. And then I think we're going to move into the next portion of our meeting, which is table topics, which will be covered by Zaina. Please welcome Zaina, Table Topics Master of this morning.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Anna. So my mother-in-law swears by a strategy to get rid of warts. And when I first heard it, I thought it sounded absurd. But she swears that if you take a banana peel, you just hold it on the wart for, I don't know, a couple days at a time, eventually the warts will disappear. And she thinks it's actually perhaps even faster than the non-organic options. And you know, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I absolutely still wouldn't believe it. So I'd like to ask, what kinds of traditions does your family have that no one else would believe could work? Any volunteers? I'll call on somebody if not. All right, Haroon, I choose you.
Okay. So what about what kind of family traditions that we have? Well, it's not a family tradition, but more like a hack that I've often done on my dishwasher. And what I do is that I always sort of organize whenever I'm doing the dishes or helping my wife do the dishes, that I actually try to sort of be systematic about how I place the dishes in the dishwasher. So what I would do is that I would actually try to fill up the bottom part of so that when I fill up my dishwasher, I always fill up the bottom shelf with the dishes. What that lets me do is that it would actually sort of, I finish off by simply filling up the dishwasher from the bottom up. And that what that lets me do is that by the time it reduces the amount of time, the amount that I have to bend over and place the dishes. So that's kind of my life hack that I do. It makes washing dishes a little bit more easier. That's about it. That's what I can think of right off the bat. So thank you, Madam Tabletop.
Thank you, Haroon. All right, so DIY or do-it-yourself kits and videos are the blood life of life hack philosophy. I'd like to know, have you ever given your all to one of these kinds of DIY projects, and did it work?
I'll take this one, Zaina. All right, so this one's not really a do-it-yourself project, but it's more so kind of like a how-to video, like you teach yourself how to do something, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it works very well nowadays with the advent of YouTube. You can learn anything from YouTube. Follow the instructions, give it enough time. You'll go through some hurdles, you'll mess up, but you know, eventually I think you can get it down following those instructions. So for me personally, and this is really funny, back in school, when I was in college, I was just bored one summer and I wanted to learn a new activity, like a do-it-yourself, learn how to juggle. So I went on YouTube, watched a 10-minute video on how to juggle. And so it's like, you get one tennis ball, you throw it up and down, you catch it. And it's like, okay, I got that down. Next, you throw in the second ball. So you throw one up, you throw the second one up, and then you kind of like go back and forth catching these two balls. And then the third one, you get the third ball in, and then you throw one up, you go to the second. So they're kind of offset in the air, then you throw the third one. And so you just have to keep practicing this motion where you throw each of the balls in half-a-second increments. And so to your point on do-it-yourself projects, I think they're awesome. I mean, if you learn how to change your own oil, you can save your own money. So definitely possible. Just got to put the time and effort to do the research and practice. Back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so at the airport, there are now these coffee shops that are fully animatronic. So animatronic baristas making you your coffee. And I've even seen videos of people who have replicated this in their own homes. And it makes me wonder, do you think there's a point where life being more efficient causes it to lose some of the essence that made it special? I'm calling somebody if there are volunteers. All right, Georgie, I volunteer you as tribute.
Okay. I would have to say that that question, while very interesting, is very kind of broad and really makes you think. So you can look at it from many different aspects. But the thing that came to mind is I have seen the animatronic coffee. They have a few of these things in San Francisco. They also have them. There's also an animatronic bartender that's actually at a casino near where I live as well. And I know that there is a company that's working on basically making, you might say, an animatronic burger place. And it's actually in San Francisco. Is very experimental. I don't know if it was open at all during the pandemic, but the concept is that everything about this place is pretty much automated. They do have a couple of people working there so that ordinary human beings can actually place an order, but otherwise it's all there. The idea is that everything about making a hamburger is automated. So they don't even grind the meat until you place the order. And then all of it's just it just gets ground up there. They chop the vegetables that you want, they put the sauces on that you want. It's all done on a conveyor belt, just automatically. So the burgers are supposedly as fresh as they can possibly be, and in theory, as little waste as you can get. All in all, I mean, I think these are some really amazing ideas, especially when you think about something like, for example, for people who, go to airports, you end up in Alaska at 2 a.m. with a way you have to get over to the other side of the planet, and you just think to yourself, this would be so much better if I could just get some nice hot food and get on the airplane. So if it had an animatronic way of having things like this made, it would be amazing. And I'm looking forward to actually a lot of these life hacks being put into place for us so we don't think about in the future.
Thank you, Georgie. Some prolific technologies you're talking about here. All right, next one. Do you know someone who swears by something of this life hack style that makes absolutely no sense, but their loyalty is so strong that no amount of logic or story will shake them? One example I have in my own life is my mother is convinced that she is more efficient than Google Maps. She will not use Google Maps. She'll be like, Google Maps is wrong. Their algorithm doesn't understand how long it takes to get from one place to another. No amount of data will sway her from this opinion. Do you have any people like that in your life, and what kinds of things are they just absolutely convinced on? Hannah.
Thank you, Miss Table Topics Master. I was going to tell a story of how my dad thinks there's a phone number for Uber to call an Uber and thinking that it's a taxi cab, but I think I'll skip over that story for this morning. But I would say air fryers, and I was not a believer on the efficiency of using an air fryer for cooking, or also using it as more of a hack to skip over cooking things that would normally take a very long time, to just use an air fryer. And I was not a believer until I actually got one, and I'm a believer about air fryers. So I thought people that were all about air fryers were like in a cult or something. And I was like, what is this thing about air fryers going around? Because I had already got on the Instapot craze, and I have a crock pot, and I think I have way too many things on my counter in my kitchen. And I was like, no way, this thing is going to replace a lot of these things that I had already bought and never really kind of used. And I was like, and then I bought one, and it's honestly one of the best life hacks, cooking hacks for us in terms of like grilled vegetables, and you can bypass a lot of like meats that need to be pre-cooked, or just in terms of like heating up your oven or preheating up your oven. So I'm a believer on air fryer now. And sometimes I sound like those crazy people now, like, you have to get an air fryer, and people are like, whoa, why are you telling me to buy an air fryer? It also brings a lot of foods back to life. So if you had got leftovers from a restaurant, it'll totally bring it back to life. So I'm a firm believer in air fryers. Thank you, Zaina.
Thank you, Hannah. Let me tell you, I also believe in the air fryer cult. I do not yet have one, but I see it coming for me, you know? All right, so my next question. Just, do you have any amazing life hacks to share with the group? And I got a couple different categories. I'd like to choose the first one to be about aging, though. How do you get older better? See, who hasn't gone yet? Gautam and Wai-Ming, you are our options here. Wai-Ming, it is.
So in fact, I have a talk, being prepared to talk about this whole thing about aging. The point is, you don't stop until you're dead. That's the way to live. That's my suggestion anyway. So that's what the talk would be about. So whenever the opportunity comes up, I'll talk about that. But in the meantime, there are just so many things one can do. I think this whole thinking about retiring or stop, whatever is okay, but that's the wrong way of thinking. Life is life. If you get up in the morning, there's something to do, that's life. And there's so much more out there. And the neat thing is everything is changing every day. Today is different from yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be different. At least that's what's happening right now. Just look at, I go back to Dogecoin. I like Dogecoin because the last time I talked about it, I think it was last week or something. And now it's more than double. And it's just something to look at. So lots of interesting stuff, just continue to look. And the only thing is you have to get up and look. You have to just get up and just look and see, and you can see all the changes, and it's really exciting. Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wai-Ming. All right, Gautam, for our last questions here, what kind of amazing life hacks do you have to share with the group, either about your career or about maintaining friends throughout your lifetime?
Thank you, Zaina. Thank you, Table Topics. I don't see any specific life hacks, but probably I could share my recent changes I've been doing since last 2.5 years. Like, we need someone to always point us in the right direction, but it's really hard to have someone throughout the day, throughout the time when you work, when you are in a meeting. It's really hard to remember those information. So what I did is I stick all the sticky notes in my wall, my house, my workplace, my laptop, and of course using apps to remind me those information, the words, positive motivation, some life hacks, even my workplace. It was a prolific experience when I do that, including for my meeting preparation, including talking to my friends, how to make them to convey, to just practice it, not just information, just practicing it. Have an app that can automatically remind, just pop up in your laptop, okay, this is the note, I want to practice it today. So random things, it's really hard to remember all the information that we gain from our friends, family, from our environment. But it really makes sense when we do the practice. And when we do the practice, I remember that when I read a word, if we want to get a habitual or habit of something, we have to practice it for 65 days, no matter what. Then it becomes habit in our life. So sticky notes, automatic app, practice it for next 65 days. Whatever you want, it will become in your life. Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are our table topics for today. I think everyone's gone. Did I miss anybody? Okay.
Well, actually, you didn't do a question.
Not do a question. That's true.
Well, we do have time.
We do have time. Okay. So one life hack that I think I have discovered, which if I lived in a previous generation, I don't know I could have, is finding a man that does the cooking. Let me tell you, this is life-changing, completely altering. For all of the young women here searching for men, find one that will do all your cooking. Not only does it help like tear down the systematic difficulties that women face, in which women are typically working significantly more than their husbands. On average, an American woman gains 7 hours of housework a week when she gets married, regardless of her marital or regardless of her employment status, which is absurd. In general, men have anywhere from 1 hour, on average, men have an extra hour a day of leisure time as compared to women. And the driving factor of this is all of the unpaid work that women do: childcare, laundry, cooking, cleaning, things that men typically don't do in their lives. And it ends up putting a lot of burden and stress on women. This is really manifested during the pandemic, with kids staying at home, husbands staying at home, wives having to work from home. All of this is compounding. And so anxiety and depression have more than doubled for working moms, which is absurd. And so knowing that I'm in a relationship where I will be fully supported, where I'm not going to have all of that pressure collapsing on me, that I'll have time to focus on my career, and I'll have a partner that'll, when we're ready, have kids with me and will support them, is just incredibly freeing. And it's a fantastic mindset to walk into life and expect a true partnership. So I'm really excited about that. And I would say that is the best life hack I find so far. Men who will cook.
Okay, guys, so you now know what prolific information on cooking you need to put into your dating profiles. In addition to that, as Hannah has just sent out, we do have a URL to click on to give our feedback on the best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics.
All right, so I think we're going to go into the final part of our meeting, which is calling the duty masters and doing a general evaluation of the meeting. So let's call on some of the duty masters, which are totally on time. But we'll start with Louis' report on the timer's report.
Thank you, Mrs. General Evaluator. Times for today for speeches: Georgie 8 minutes, Wai-Ming over 9 minutes. Evaluation: Haroon 351, Gautam 313. Table topics: Haroon 124, Georgie 213, Hana 128, Wai-Ming 124, Gautam 208, Zaina 136. Back to you, Mrs. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Louis. And next up, we have the grammarian report. I believe it's Wai-Ming.
Yes, Ms. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. I wasn't very good in terms of listening to this. However, in terms of what Gautam said, I heard something about it will became in your life. I think something is missing there. You might, after you do the 65 days and the sticky notes and all that, then maybe you talk about that habit would become part of your life or something. But other than that, and then I heard Louis talk about Mrs. General Evaluator. I'm not sure whether that's right. Use the word. Normally, I think you would just use Miss or something, regardless of their marital status, because whatever. That's my perspective anyway. So that's what I heard. It's General Evaluator.
Sorry for mispronouncing anything.
Thank you, Wai-Ming. And I know I'm a prolific listener, and sometimes it's up to interpretation, but I'm just trying to put it in there before Gautam goes to his report on the word master of today.
Thank you, Hannah. Yes, the word of the day is prolific. So everyone used most of the time, and I'm not sure I didn't capture Louis' word.
I think I did.
Okay. Right. Thanks for everyone. Today the word is prolific. Hope you can use it in your day and make it practice it.
Thank you, Gautam. And I think, do we have a joke? Louis, I think Wyoming put your name there, but I don't know if you have a joke for today.
Yeah. I looked one up. I didn't memorize it, but it's pretty short. It's a dad joke. So a Spanish magician told everyone he would disappear. He said, "Uno, dos," then disappeared without a trace.
That's
Oh, thank you, Louis. That was definitely a dad joke. So, but all right. I think counter, is that you too, Louis, this morning?
Yeah, that's also me.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss General Evaluator. The all counter, I didn't count too many today, or maybe I'm just bad at listening, but got them. I got 2, Georgie 2, Zaina 1, Haroon 1, Wyoming 2, Hana 2. Thank you, Miss General Evaluator. Wyoming's got me correcting my usage of the Miss and Mrs. now.
Thank you, Louis. And I either one is fine for me.
Thank you.
All right. I think, okay, excellent. So I think everybody's voted. Yeah, it looks like the form is working. So I did get 7 votes. So I think there's 7 of us, so that totally works out. Before we announce the winners, I will do a general evaluation of the meeting. So starting with the Toastmaster of today, who was Wai Ming. So I feel like Wai Ming stepped into this role, given that Jose, I think, was off this week. So great job, Wai Ming, just stepping in to fill a role and just volunteering and just taking initiative and being proactive in that. So I do appreciate that. I feel like Louis' timer background is something I hadn't seen before, so I thought it was awesome that it had the time and it changed colors, so it was very engaging. I did like both of those aspects, so awesome job Louis being a timer and using that resource. In terms of, I think, the evaluators, so Haroon, I like that during your evaluations that you did stand up in the delivery part, and you also did use a lot of hand gestures very well. So your hand gestures also matched your evaluation. So I think that's something that you did pretty well. You spent more time focused on people's general reaction to the speech and people's interpretation of the speech, which has also brought like a really more depth to your evaluation, and is something that we can all do overall, I think, a little bit better. And I like that you did provide suggestions on just how Georgie can deliver just more of her more points of her project and leadership and just enhance it a little bit more. So I did appreciate that. You did show genuine development in her as a speaker. Gautam, I did like that you focused more on the vocal variety of the speech and Wyoming's speech. In terms of the content, you did also dive deep in Wyoming's content that he presented. I would have just like to see, just similar to Haroon, to see more depth in your evaluation in terms of the interpretation, like how people would perceive a speech upon books and reading. So like maybe even bringing your own perspective of, I'm an avid reader, I'm a prolific reader, this is my interpretation, or it did pique my interest in becoming more of a better reader, or how I can become a better reader, or what resources I can rely on. So overall, I think the meeting was on pace. I do think that we do have room for like a 3rd speaker. So I think we should put that into general practice, just pushing somebody to fill that third spot. We have the capacity and we have the bandwidth. That's also something we can also reach out. I know Georgie brought up visiting other meetups and visiting other Toastmasters clubs. That's something, especially if you're a guest, you can always focus on. Other clubs don't normally have the bandwidth to have a 3rd speaker, or even always continuing to have space for all of us to develop as a speaker. So I think that's something we can also push out to other clubs if we are ever a guest on other Toastmasters. I definitely like to become a guest. I like to learn from other clubs to see if they do anything differently, and we can implement something differently in our club. So overall, I think that was all I got in terms of feedback on the overall general meeting. And I don't know if I'm passing it back to myself then. Does anybody have announcements? I don't know, Georgie, if you have any announcements for this coming week.
Just that you guys should keep your eyes open for a URL link to a Google form so I can get more feedback on potential online social events and sort of things we can be doing. So you see that in the next day or two. And I think that's
Excellent.
pretty much it. Although I guess we will be doing a district event pretty soon. I don't know exactly what the day is for that, for a district contest on the table topics, and the international speech competition coming up pretty soon. There's also a lot of training that usually takes place at that time as well. So when I find out, I will make sure you guys know about it.
Excellent. Thank you, Georgie. All right. And okay. So let's pull rolls. I think before we can, let's pull rolls before we get into announcing some of the winners for this morning. But does anybody else want to be a Toastmaster or do any speeches for next week?
I'd love to be a speaker.
Dana? Okay, excellent.
I can be a backup speaker.
Georgie? Okay.
And I think next for my track, it says I should do an evaluation. Or do you guys think, yeah, evaluation? I'll try that out.
Yeah, you got it. Re-evaluators. Awesome. I'm going to sign up as a backup speaker too, and then I'll confirm. But do we have other evaluators? If we have 3 speakers, we definitely have bandwidth. I can also be an evaluator just in case too.
Well, I'm already a backup speaker, so if
Backup
the
speaker?
opportunity
Okay,
comes
got
up, well, if the opportunity comes up, I'd like to speak, but if not, it's okay.
You got it, Wendy.
If you prefer to speak, Hannah, I can not be a backup speaker this time around, or I can.
It's okay. It's okay to have 3 backup speakers.
Yeah, in theory, yeah, we can do that too. Whatever works. But maybe I could switch over to table topics or something, or do
Table
both,
topics.
whichever.
Okay. All right. What about Toastmasters? Anybody want to take Toastmaster for next week?
I actually suggest Louis might want to try it, but it's just whether he wants to feel comfortable or not.
Not yet. Still not comfortable, but I do want to do it eventually because that will definitely help me. What's it called? I think it would be very beneficial for meetings at my company to just be able to run the show. But yes, eventually, yeah.
Yeah, and the biggest challenge, Louis, is filling roles. But I think at this club, everybody's pretty proactive. So you don't have to hound anybody. You're like, hey, are you making a speech this week? Okay, send me your title.
Yeah, people do volunteer pretty readily.
Mm-hmm. That was the biggest challenge when I was a first-time Toastmaster. I'm like, who's doing what? I don't know. But here, I think we're all pretty proactive about filling roles. The hardest part was filling roles. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can ask Jose then. I don't know if he comes back.
Jose? Okay.
I don't want to volunteer him, but.
Oh, yeah,
Got volunteered.
You kind of do.
If you don't want, then I can be a backup Toastmaster.
Awesome, got him. Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, so let's announce winners for this morning. Let's announce some winners and give a drum roll. Hold on, we got 2 computers. This is what's going on now. I'll just double check here. Who are the winners? Okay. So this morning, please give a drum roll, please. We actually had almost like a 3-way tie going on for Table Topics Master. So all these people got, 2 votes each. So Gautam, Louis, and Zaina, congratulations. I don't know, I think Zaina had to leave, but she was also one of the Table Topics winners. It was a blowout for Best Evaluator. There was a Swift challenge, but it was by Haroon. So Haroon was the Best Evaluator this morning. And then Wai-Ming, it was also a very swift challenge between Wai-Ming and Georgie, and it was Wai-Ming. So best speaker this morning. Please give a round of applause to all of our evaluators, all of our speakers this morning that definitely put themselves out there and made a speech. So definitely sign up. We got a lot of signups for next week, so it'll be a great meeting. And with that, we will take a quick photo. And I think, yeah, we're right upon time. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, great. That's good.
Where's the cat?
I know. The cat wants to be a Toastmaster now. Honorary Toastmaster. She's over here. I think she left. She got bored. Jessie. All right. Oh. Just double checking on the messages. All right. Other than that, we are set. If you guys want to hang around, you're more than welcome to. But have a wonderful and productive Wednesday morning. And it is another day on Zoom, so don't get burnout. And hopefully we have some fun events coming up with Georgie being on the planning committee. So hopefully we get a fun event that we all can participate in soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good morning.
Bye, everyone. Yeah, have a good one.